Hi, today we're talking about ketogenic diets and the benefits, the indications, and how to get started. So first step is to decide if it's the right diet for you. So one, I would discuss it with your provider, but if it's something that you want to just kind of get started on your own, I'm going to share some helpful information here. It's primarily indicated for people who have metabolic disease, so that is cardiovascular disease, diabetes, and essentially the metabolic syndrome with central obesity and weight gain. Also neurological disease, mitochondrial disease, so deficiencies in energy generation and production. And then my favorite, weight loss resistance. So this is patients who have been trying everything, nothing seems to be working. They're dieting, they're doing, they're eating right, they're exercising, and they just can't seem to get back to the body shape that they are used to or desire. And I've found that ketosis, or getting into a ketogenic diet, is one of the best ways to reset the metabolism and finally get to those goals. So that's part of the reason I'm so excited to share it with you today, is because I personally have been seeing those results as well. So how to get started? Well, I usually recommend beginning with intermittent fasting. So this is about a 16-hour fast overnight where you don't consume any caloric content, but you can still hydrate with liquids. And this is going to bring your body into a gentle state of overnight ketosis, giving your digestion a bit of a break so that it can start using some of its storage molecules for energy. Ideally, with ketogenesis, we are trying to burn through our carbohydrate stores so that our body can use the secondary source of energy, which is fat, for metabolism, energy generation, and ultimately fat is a much better energy producer, and that's why our body stores energy as fat. So begin with an overnight fast, 16 hours. You can start with 12 and then gradually work up from there. It gets easier the more you do it. So that may look like having a meal at 10 and then ending your last food consumption at 6 p.m. And once you feel pretty comfortable with that, or even concurrently, I would start adding in more vegetables into your diet. Essentially, you're trying to crowd out the carbs on your plate with non-starchy vegetables. And the ideal is actually 6 to 9 cups of vegetables per day. This is full of phytonutrients and fiber and things that you need for appropriate mitochondrial function, elimination, and energy generation. So that can be a lot for a lot of people. So begin where you are and gradually work up from there. 6 to 9 cups of vegetables pretty much for everyone. So eat your veggies. And then once you feel pretty comfortable with that, I'd recommend the next step, starting to really see if you can move into a ketogenic diet. And so this would look like minimizing carbohydrates, actually reducing protein, and getting your primary source of calories from fat. The usual ratio, which is pretty good for most people, is 60% from fat, 20% from protein, and 20% from carbohydrates. What we're trying to accomplish with a ketogenic diet is that there's so little carbohydrate that the body, all it has as an energy source is fat. And so in eating fat, you have satiety, but you also start kicking your body into burning fat as an energy source, because it usually doesn't do that on its own. It's so used to using carbohydrates. For vegetarians especially, it could be helpful to add in L-acetylcarnitine and acetyl-L-carnitine, and about 300 to 500 milligrams. And this is great because carnitine is an amino acid that's only present in meat, but it is essential for bringing in the fatty acids into the mitochondria for energy generation, breakdown, and metabolism. So that is a nice little tip there for vegetarians. And then once you add in that, you can start adding in some MCT oil. There's lots of different ideas for different oils, and I'm personally using MCT oil and recommending that. And just a tablespoon in the morning. You can either have it with water or mixing it in with a smoothie, a non-fruit smoothie, because again, you're minimizing your carbohydrates. So that includes fruit, so no fruit. And then the first few days of getting into ketosis, you can feel a little flu-like sometimes, or just low in energy at first. And this is your body's getting used to this process. There is more fluid wasting, so that's wasting through the kidneys and electrolyte wasting. So just having some increasing your hydration and adding a pinch of Himalayan salt to your liquids or any other electrolyte supplement to your water will help almost immediately with some of these symptoms that you may experience in the first few days of getting into ketosis. There are different ways to measure if you're in ketosis. I haven't experimented with those just yet, but I've heard great things. However, you can still accomplish that without getting really technical, and that's really just coming from personal experience as well as working with clients. And so by focusing on fat sources for energy and as your food sources, avoiding any starchy vegetables, legumes, and fruits, and then again, following that ratio of 20% of your total calories coming from carbohydrates, 20% from protein, and 60% from fat. So I hope that helps. Those are some initial markers of ways to get started. Just giving you a quick, I myself am plant-based, and so I thought that was prohibitive at first for ketogenesis, and I'm finding that it's actually not as hard as I thought. So foods that you can focus on or remember are nuts, seeds, nut butters, avocados, coconuts, coconut milk, coconut oil. What else have I been eating? I've been having tofu, so organic, non-GMO and sprouted, and lots of broccolini, and what else? Zucchini, zoodles, pestos with basil. So you can still have a lot of flavor, cilantro, and doing protein smoothies with a pea protein, the MCT oil, and almond milk. So nut milks are fine. And those are just a few ideas of some things to get started with. And I hope that it's not too hard for you if you do decide to try it, and that you're at least curious to see if this may work for you. There's a lot of information out there, and I hope that this is a good way to begin. All right, take care. Bye-bye.